Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Del Castillo, Chief Product Officer at BoldPM, and I'd like to welcome all of you to today's Ask Me Anything session. And today's topic is retention is the new growth. And my co-panelist today is Steve Johnson, and Steve is Chief Product Officer at Under10 Consulting. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm in Virginia. It is raining cats and dogs, so I'm glad to be indoors on video.
Sounds great. All right. Well, I'd like to welcome all of you as well. And just before we get started, I want to go over some housekeeping items. I actually sent this out via chat, so you can actually look at the chat line and just make sure that you're muted so that we can eliminate any background noise. If you encounter any audio issues, be sure to refresh your browser. Sometimes that happens. Best experience for those of you who are Zoom experts is to actually log in via the application, the client application, which you can install on any of your mobile devices. But if you're happen to be joining us via browser, sometimes you may encounter some audio issues, especially as we get more people joining. So be sure to refresh your browser and then let us know if you have any issues. You should be able to log out and then log back in if that's what you need to do. We are recording today's session, and we'll be going to share the video playback after today. We're going to be sharing a link with you via email. We'll be sending you that. And today is all about you. Be sure to submit any questions you have on the chat line. Both Steve and I will be monitoring that as we begin discussions, and we'll be answering any questions between now and the top of the hour, which will be when we wrap up. And we can go ahead and get started with introductions. So, Steve, welcome. Can you introduce yourself, and then I'll do the same as well.
Well, sure. I've got a 17-minute introduction, but I think I won't do that one. Hector and I have known one another for, probably 10 or more years. We're both here in the Northern Virginia area. And a few years ago, I started a consulting business that was really geared around really practical approaches to things. And one of the discussions that Hector and I were talking about was different roles in product management. So I've encountered more and more, and I've been an advocate of a growth role in product management for a while, and that conversation led to this session today.
Sounds great. And my name is Hector Del Castillo, once again, Chief Product Officer at BoldPM. That is my own consulting firm. And we actually do training, consulting, and also coaching for anyone who wants to build high-performing product teams within organizations. And Steve, as Steve mentioned, we've known each other for a few years now, almost a decade and a half, I think. And That's how long we've been around as practitioners. And we see each other at different types of events, from product camps to product summits that we have attended over time together. And we are both active public speakers, which we do at various different events. And I just sent out the information for us. If you want to know more about us, you can actually go and visit our LinkedIn profiles for more information. Feel free to connect with us after today's discussion. So today's discussion is going to be mostly about, this retention and why in many cases, organizations are right now struggling with just being able to create revenue through nothing but customer retention. And I just want to ask one question from the audience. How many of you are in an environment, you can actually use the chat window to respond to this question? Let me know whether, how many of you have been impacted where in your organization today, you're seeing a lot lower demand than the beginning of the year because of COVID-19. You just type in that information. And how many of you are on the other side where now you're seeing an overwhelming demand because of things that changing behavior of your buyers, and you're seeing an overwhelming demand? Type in that information via chat if you can, if you're on that spectrum. And how many of you have seen no change, meaning it's pretty much the same as before, that there's been very little impact, if anything at all, on your revenue, because you may be on those extremes depending on the industry. But, Steve and I were talking about, and it really seems like in some industries, it's almost like half and half, right? And this is U.S. companies. Mm-hmm. half of the industries have been impacted where their demand is way down, down to like Great Depression type of demand level, right? So they're in a depression today, not recession. Others have been impacted some, but they're mostly been impacted, very, very, very little compared to the ones that have been deeply impacted. So, and as an example, some of the ones that have been hit at depression level are the entertainment industry, which includes sports. It also includes anything that has to do with traveling, tourism, and theme parks, for example, right? Those are depression level. There are others that have not been as impacted. And for those ones that are not as impacted, what we're seeing is sort of like the knee-jerk reaction is you've got to just focus on, forget about acquiring new customers. You want to just be able to maintain your current customer base and try to figure out how to keep them, how to hold them. Mm-hmm. So for them, as opposed to trying to grow, they're starting on retaining of their own customers and maybe upselling them over time. Steve, I don't know if you have any question, anything regarding any insights regarding this behavior of companies and what you're seeing within the product managers that are working in these organizations.
Well, there's a rule in consulting that when times are hard, companies defund the 3 T's: training, travel, and temporary employees. So for people in consulting who do, temporary work, or people who are doing training, man, business just fell off the cliff, right? Mm-hmm. But in June, I think everybody went, oh, this is going to last for a while. We need to get back to business. I mean, I talked to some people during first and more during second quarter who were saying, our business has fallen off the cliff, and, we're trying to figure out if we need to pivot, right? But in the last few weeks, I've been talking to people who are like, we've got a solid strategy. Our buyers are coming back. So, we really need to supercharge our product teams. So I'm seeing, renewed interest in coaching and training. And interestingly, the people who are looking at training are more looking for application and coaching rather than, say, having somebody come in and do a lecture. So it's less about professional development and it's more about implementation, which is ideal for me. I think it's ideal for you as well. I think we both take that same approach.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, one of the things that I've seen is the trend that I would say in product management compared to other types of management. For example, project management. That discipline, it's typical for them to have this continuous education or continuous learning as part of the profession. To me, that was never the case for product management. In other words, when I'm actually doing training, I always ask the question of when I first show up to any, whether it's a public course or an in-house private course within a company, I ask the question, how many of you have been around, more than 5 years in product management? And typically you see a few hands, not the majority, because the majority of the people in the room are brand new product managers. But those that have been around for 5 years or longer, then the next question I ask is, how many of you have had formal product management training?
Well, that's the question that comes up in every sales call. I mean, when people call me, the first thing they say is, hey, I saw you speak at Nerd World and boy, you're really funny. Mm-hmm. None of my people have any formal training. I mean, that is like within the first 3 sentences, that's always one of them. And, I want to get my team standardized. And that's a good lead in actually to today's topic. In specific, what I find, the biggest issue that I'm finding, and I think this plays nicely into the other conversation we want to have in a couple of weeks about the state of product management. More and more companies are embracing the fact that product manager is so generic a title. It's like developer. It's not a specific role. And the work that I've been doing over the last few years around role definition, I've focused, I've created 3 specialized roles around the 3 horizons. That, you know, thinking about those products that we want to have down the road, that's product strategy. And it goes by many titles. Thinking about what we're building now for delivery soon, that's product planning. And, you know, I think that's what most product managers and certainly most product owners are doing. But to me, what's really interesting is more and more people are saying, you know, it's we need more than marketing. We need product marketing. And in fact, product marketing focused specifically on growing the product. And so the Horizon 1 stuff is we have this suite of products now, or we have this one product now. How do we grow it? How do we sell more of what we've already built? And that's how I evolved this title that we want to argue about, in fact, is I call it a product growth manager, and you call it a growth product manager. So why don't you speak to why you're wrong on that particular point?
I think you're wrong. You know, as a matter of fact, I saw an article that was published, and actually there's been several articles that have been published in the last 5 years that I've actually been tracking. One of the earlier ones, and there's multiple ones from McKinsey and Company and from Bain and Company. Both are the top 3, you know, in the top 3 consulting firms for many product type of organizations, right?
And those are good if you can't get access to me or to Hector.
Yes. Very expensive, however, because if you look at their prices, they're charging for any one day, you know, thousands of dollars for just coming in and asking questions and assessing your product management team, right? Yeah. Not necessarily for mid-market organizations, because, you know, both of these companies target the Fortune 500 companies that are global companies. So, you know, what they've actually have multiple articles that have come up in the last 5 years saying product management is broken within organizations that are software organizations or that have agile, and, you know, agile just made it worse, not better, right? And they're tracking what? They're tracking product performance. And if you're saying, hey, as product management has, you know, there's more jobs and more people that are now in product management positions than ever before. And it's actually an emerging trend because there's more and more companies hiring product managers. The majority of product managers, number one, they don't choose to get trained, and their organizations don't encourage them to get trained. It's like multiple challenges, right?
And yet the conversation that I run into is, again, I'm interviewing for a job as a product manager, and they're describing this enormous job that's strategy, planning, marketing, sales support, 15 other things. And I think that's why I'm starting to see more people focus specifically on how do we sell more of what we have today.
Correct. And so bottom line is that—
make the point about product growth versus growth product.
Yes. So when it started, Silicon Valley started, this was maybe about 10 years ago. They came out with the idea of having a growth hacker. You know, what is hacking growth? You know, it's nothing but than a marketing term, because to me, it's what traditional product marketing management is. Now, how, you know, who has product marketing today? Very few organizations do, but most of the, you know, the top 10 global software companies today have multiple product management roles, which includes product marketing management. So they don't have in those organizations a growth product manager per se. But the term of growth product management came in, and it was out of Silicon Valley. And it was applied to startups when the lean startup started around the same time as agile movement started, and everybody was starting to adopt Scrum. The lean startup movement also started, and they started adopting the role of growth hacker. Growth hacker became growth product management in those funded startups out of Silicon Valley. But what I find is that now, as you have, you know, organizations are trying to copy what startups out of Silicon Valley have done. They actually have, you know, today you can actually go to on LinkedIn and see how many positions there are on growth product managers And there are a few organizations that are calling it growth product manager
And
for that
I
reason.
really like that title vastly better than product marketing manager. In
And
particular, I've come to dislike the term marketing because it's as ill-defined as any title in the company. What do you mean by marketing? And most of us, like it or not, when we say marketing, we mean AdWords. We mean SEO. We mean the tactics of promotion. And yet I majored in marketing in college. I mean, I learned that marketing was what we now call product management, product strategy. And my first job in product management, I was doing product strategy. And then Agile came along and we got pulled into technology product management rather than business product management. And who had time after all that to do any sort of product marketing? And Hector, you've met my daughter. She was dating a product marketing manager and finally had to break it off because he refused, he was uninterested in learning his product. It was a consumer product. And she's like, you know how you do this on this screen? And he's like, oh yeah, I don't use our product. And she's like, how can you do marketing if you don't know the product? And he's like, no one in our department knows the product.
Oh
I'm like, well,
God.
you can't have the word product in your title if you don't know a product.
That's correct.
And so she broke it off with that guy and ended up marrying a UX guy. So everything's okay in the family now. But I really embrace that product growth management title or product growth manager title, however way we call it. And I like the focus of it because the focus is how do we sell more of what we have? How do we grow? And how do we retain those customers over time? I mean, there's two parts of growth, right? Reducing your churn and increasing your new adoptions. And it seems to me product marketing has been all the way back at top of funnel. How do we generate leads? Hey, let's go to a trade show because those are freaking worthless, but let's go anyway because salespeople love them. Instead, they've turned, if you've got a product growth manager, they're focused on the bottom of the funnel. How do we convert people? How do we retain people? And I'd even be okay with calling the product growth manager, say, I'm sorry, I was reading Andy's post there. I'm sorry. Yeah, I totally lost it. This happened the first time I ever did a web conference. I was reading the chat stream as it went by, and I stopped talking. And I did, and finally I realized I can't do two things at once. And yes, Andy, I want to violently agree with you. How can a marketer understand customers and do anything when they've never met them?
Exactly.
So it blows my mind. And that's why so many marketing teams, and I'm not I'm going to diss on marketing teams. Many marketing teams that I encounter don't know the product and they don't know the market. What they are is project managers of campaigns. And so they say, hey, sales, who do you want us to campaign to? And then they turn to product and say, hey, product, we're going to campaign to this market. Give us some words. And I'm not even totally opposed to that. I mean, what I love is that marketing would be expert in techniques and communication, but that someone, a product marketing manager, a product growth manager, a product retention manager would make these decisions on identifying friction in the way we sell our products or identifying friction for clients acquiring our product by whatever means, and then working with marketing to solve that area of friction or solve that problem, very much like a product manager or product planning manager works with development to solve usability problems. So here's a metaphor, which might be a good final statement here, Hector, is I like to think of product marketing is to marketing as product management is to development.
Yes.
In both cases, the product person finds problems. Problems in adoption, problems in usage, problems that customers have that we haven't addressed, problem that salespeople have, that we haven't addressed, and then they work with a creation organization, either a development organization that creates features or a marketing organization that creates programs. And that completely changes the game. I mean, it leverages the reality most of us have with marketing. And it also says, by the way, as a product marketing manager, if you've been a product manager, these are skills you already have.
Yep.
Right? I'm going to do some win-loss analysis, find a problem, and then sit down with my colleagues in marketing and say, I've seen this friction problem. How do we solve it? And they go, oh, wow, that would be a video. Oh, wow, that would be a new slide and presentation. That would be a white paper. Okay, I don't know that stuff.
Yep.
I know the product.
Yep. And I think to me, it's like also that most customers, most vendors today have been so focused at managing the user experience because, in many cases, they may need lots of users to get a few buyers, a few customers that are buyers, right? And what they really need to do is kind of turn that upside down, because now what they really need to do first to get sales, to increase and make it frictionless, they need to manage the customer experience and do a much better job of the customer experience than their direct competitors. How are you going to do that when everybody, including competitors, is only focused on user experience? Right. They're not, right? Customer experience means that you have to understand buyer behavior, number one. And buyer behavior, that's not people in your building at all. This is what product marketing should be doing. And most organizations are missing that component because all they think is, oh yeah, let's talk to our salespeople or let's talk to our customer service people and figure out how we're going to position our product to sell more. They never go out and talk to customers. Yeah. And that's what they should be doing, because that is market research, right? And to me, it's the strategic part of product marketing. If you want to sell more to your customers right now, you've got to understand your customers and their buy behavior better than your direct competitors. And Absolutely. None of that is going to come from talking to your executives or talking to your salespeople or talking to your customer service teams or even your developers.
You cannot do product management or product marketing if you don't engage with customers and really understand problems and friction in their life.
That's correct.
Other than that, it's like there's an old joke. Everyone else, let's see. In a world of opinion, the one with the data is king, right? Or I can't think of the other good quote, but it's in that neighborhood. It's like opinions are well, it doesn't matter. I'm well known for my pragmatic marketing quote. Your opinion, while interesting, is irrelevant. And if you don't have firsthand experience in the market, then you're just another opinion.
Yep.
So why don't you set us up for the next AMA, because we're running short on time.
Yes.
We're almost over.
And if you have any other questions, be sure to submit them, and we can actually look at them offline. We can get back to you as well. And as I mentioned earlier, we are recording today's session. And here's some things that are coming up for us. We are going to have another one of these Ask Me Anything 2 weeks from now, same time, same channel. We'll be announcing that soon. And we're actually also doing some live online workshops. Both Steve and I are doing this together. The one that's coming up next is growth product management. So we're going to get into much deeper detail about what product management is, growth product management, which is really, as you will learn today, the real strategic side of product marketing, and figuring out how to sell more into the same customers to actually retain, number one. But then the next part of that will be about acquiring new customer segments that have not bought from you. We're going to get into all those details in this workshop. Then we're also going to talk about how product management has evolved. And Steve and I have talked about how product management has become so much complex that now you have 3 more specialized roles that are all part of product management, product marketing. We're going to talk into deeper detail in this particular workshop. And if you want to get a hold of us, here's our contact information. You can contact us via email. You can connect with us on our LinkedIn page, profiles, on Twitter, or our websites, and we can continue the conversation. We'll be announcing the next Ask Me Anything. Will be 2 weeks from now, same time slot, same day of the week. and we'll be doing another Zoom meeting that we'll set up. So feel free to, we'll send you the information via email, and let us know if you have any follow-up questions from today's discussion. Once again, I want to thank all of you for attending today, and we'll be sending you a link where you can watch today's video playback. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.